Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon, Keeping Stage 5 Students on a Pathway to Advanced, presented to us by our lead author, Stuart Palmer, and our senior maths publisher, Scott Halligan. My name is Caroline Paul, and I am part of the Cambridge, New South Wales sales team based here in Sydney. Before we get started today, in the spirit of reconciliation, Cambridge University Press and Assessment acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Our lead author, Stuart Palmer, is a fully qualified high school mathematics teacher with more than 25 years experience teaching students from all walks of life in a variety of different schools. He has been head of mathematics in 2 schools, and he is very well known by teachers throughout the state for the professional learning workshops he delivers. Stuart also assists thousands of Year 12 students every year as they prepare for their HSC exams. Also, in addition, he spent more than a decade running tutorials for pre-service mathematics teachers at the University of Sydney. Also, please know that at any time throughout Stuart's presentation, you can type in any questions that you might have in the chat box, and Scott, Stuart, or myself will answer these. And if we do run out of time, we will endeavour to respond shortly after the webinar. So this will also be recorded and shared with attendees at a later date. So without further ado, over to you, Stuart.
Yes, right. So here we go. This is what you were promised in this little 1-hour session. This used to happen to me all the time with just about every class I had in Year 9. There was the scope and sequence, and I was doing my best, but for one reason or another, falling behind. So we thought this would be a good time, because maybe you're wondering what to do about that, and maybe I have a few suggestions for you. I hope I do, and I hope this hour is really worthwhile for you. One thing I have become passionate about over the years is that I think we need to do whatever we can to keep as many students as possible on a pathway to advanced for as long as possible, to keep their beyond school options open for them. Some hard, cold facts of life about STEM in schools, university, and the STEM careers of the 2020s and beyond. We, more than any other subject, feel this because the progression in maths from primary school to high school to university to a job is arguably much stronger in mathematics than any other subject by a country mile, in my opinion. I've been reading recently, surprisingly, that some of the quite glorious STEM careers in Australia are now experiencing chronic shortages of qualified workers. They just can't find people in Australia to do their jobs. Some of those jobs are highly prestigious and very well paid, but they do require a very specific university degree. And some of those degrees include compulsory first-year mathematics subjects, and I should have included there compulsory first-year statistics subjects. And I can assure you that some of those subjects have very high failure rates. But graduates who have done advanced, especially those with extension, are much more likely to pass those first-year subjects. But the universities know that, but they will give anybody pretty much a place in most of those degrees, even though they know that standard students are highly likely to fail those first-year maths and stats subjects, leading to significant debt. I read recently that out of all the students that have debt, university-related debt, the mean debt is approximately $26,000. Not a great way to start life, in my opinion, your working life. So a lot of celebrating of Band 6 results, including Band 6 results in standard, but clearly not helpful for students who are going to pursue a STEM undergraduate degree and a STEM career. In fact, some academics privately say, I would rather have somebody who got 60 in advanced than a student who got 90 plus in standard. So I think the pressure is on us. I think we need to do whatever we can to keep students in stage 4 and 5 on a pathway to advanced. Extension would be nice for as long as possible. So we need to start that conversation with students, parents, school leaders sooner rather than later. And traditionally, that conversation happened during term 3 of year 10. But in hindsight, I have decided that that is way too late for that conversation. And as a result of working with teachers all over New South Wales last year, in many schools, that conversation is now part of year 8. I'll come to that shortly. Under our new scheme, we've got core topics and path topics. Check out the bottom right-hand corner. I can't find anything that says that anything is compulsory. Core does not mean compulsory. No single dot point is compulsory. They are not created equal. Some will take longer than others, and some dot points are more important than others. As far as the path topics go, I firmly believe that students need to see some of those during year 9 and then gain mastery of those in year 10. I was one of those students. I can clearly remember the distance, midpoint, gradient, equation of a line in year 9. I was a bit scratchy with that, but then we had another go in year 10 and things fell into place, along with factorising quadratic trinomials. Didn't come naturally to me, but by the time we had another go in year 10, I was all over it. But we need to be very selective about those path topics and choose the ones we need to do first and foremost, especially Jess and Max. These are my new friends, Jess and Max. Well, not new. I spoke about Jess and Max all over New South Wales last year. Jess and Max are the kind of kids who go, Miss, should I be doing standard or advanced in year 11? Jess and Max, you know, they were okay in 7 and 8 and 9. They tended to coast a little bit. They weren't necessarily challenged. Maybe some of their behaviour was a little bit challenging for the teachers. Maybe they could have worked a lot harder. But Jess and Max, their numeracy, their NAPLAN numeracy in 7 and 9 was decent. And so this workshop is for them. How do we keep the door to standard and, how do we keep the door to advanced and possibly extension open to them? Because it is simply not feasible that Jess and Max can do everything in the core and everything in the path topics. And they don't have to. But wait, there's more. Year 11 advanced has a massive assumption of prior learning from stage 5. And teachers tell me this is why there is that very well-trodden path from year 11 advanced to year 11 standard. People who teach advanced a lot, they tell me that year 11 advanced is not the problem. The problem is that the students didn't come to Year 11 Advanced with all the cards in place, and really the only card they need the most is all of the algebra. Most of that prerequisite learning that I'm talking about is in the Stage 5 path topics. But on the other hand, Year 11 Standard, very low assumptions. Almost everything from Stage 5 is going to be revised as if they've never seen it before. But on the other hand, in Advanced, poor old Year 11 Advanced teacher simply does not have time to be teaching kids how to do algebraic fractions from scratch, or to factorize quadratic trinomials from scratch, or solve linear simultaneous equations from scratch. There simply is not time. Therefore, students need to see some of those critical Stage 5 path topics during Year 9, then gain mastery in Year 10. Question is, which ones are the most critical? The answer is not the brand new networks path topic. Waste of time for Jess and Max. Absolute waste of time. The short answer is they need to be good with the algebra topics and they need to be good with the trigonometry topics. 10 years ago, I would have also included geometry in that short list, but not anymore. So in fact, in some ways, Jess and Max need to be good with less than they did before. The long answer is much more complicated, and that's why we're here today. I spent a lot of time talking to teachers last year, as I said, all over New South Wales. And then I came up with the official Cambridge scope and sequence, which comes under the heading, Make Hay While the Sun Shines. And that means it's a brand new term. Let's start a brand new topic. Let's make it a good one. We're going to make hay while the sun shines. I don't know about you, but at the start of a term, every term, the start of a term, I was rested. I was ready to do something, you know, recharged, ready to go. I wish I'd thought of this many years ago when I was a head teacher in a school. Maybe we should say, rightio, new term, new topic, you know, but I haven't finished the previous topic. Well, we can come back. Yeah, what we're going to make sure is that every term we're going to start a new topic and we're going to make sure it's a really critical one, especially for the likes of Jess and Max. We need Jesses and Maxes of the world to aspire to doing advanced rather than just coasting through 7, 8, 9, 10. We need to lift their aspirations and their motivations so that when they get to Year 11 advanced, hopefully they will stay. So I'm going to fly through these because I'm sure some of you have seen these before. I think in Year 7, Term 2, new term, new topic, that's when we should be doing algebra from Chapter 4 of Year 7 Cambridge. Year 7, Term 3, this is a brilliant time, new term, new topic. Let's show them what equations look like with a nice gentle introduction to equations. They will see it again in Year 8. But I think it really does pay for them to have a little go in Year 7. Year 7, Term 4. This is a funny topic. This one is called measurement, but when you look at the contents of the syllabus, hardly anybody measures anything. They're not measuring, they are using formulas to calculate length, perimeter, circumference, area, volume. So really, this topic, which is called measurement, is another algebra topic. And this is another chance for Jess and Max to become confident with their algebra. And I think it's very important. This is chapter 10, as you see. we've put it at chapter 10 because they really should do algebra and equations before they start using formulas for these things. Year 8, flying, right. Year 8, term 1, new term, new topic. Let's have another go. Let's have another go with algebra and the index laws. This will be the first time they've seen the index laws done formally. Term 2, let's have another crack at equations and maybe introduce inequalities for some. And it's clearly labelled in the book that this is extension work. It comes from a stage 5 path topic. But by this stage, we're looking into the eyes of year 8 and having conversations about year 11 and 12, advanced versus standard. Good example there of something they need to be good at. 7I, 7J, they need to be good at that if they're going to advanced. If they go to standard, they will never see it. Year 8, term 3, important topic, not just for Jess and Max, but this one's important for everybody, using ratios and rates. And term 4, complicated topic, linear relationships. So what I'm suggesting here is that these topics should go at the start of the terms, and if you need more than 5 weeks, well, that's okay. What you need to do is trim something from the second half of the term, something that is less important. And then we make the transition from year 8 into year 9. I wonder at your school, when the students transitioned from year 8 to year 9, were they given any choice about stage 5, or was that choice made for them? Are there students in your school who were excluded from advanced at the end of year 8? Maybe that's the right thing for them, but did they know? Did they know? On the Manswer Facebook group today, a very well often asked question, what do I do? Got a year 10 student, we're near the end of term 2, they've been doing 5.1, 5.2, and now all of a sudden they've decided they want to do an advanced. They want to do advanced in year 11, but they've done nothing from 5.3. Ouch. I wonder how that happened. I wonder if they knew at the end of year 8 what that class they were placed in really did to them. Anyway, do students and parents know about the different options in year 9? So I was doing some work at a school recently in recent years, and we made the maths pathways for year 9 part of the process students go through when they are choosing their elective subjects, you know, commerce and art and elective history and all of those. Maths was part of that conversation, and the principal said to me, but maths isn't elective. And I said, well, yeah, but there are electives within our subject. We are the only compulsory subject which has electives. Now, Harry Potter fans, get ready to put something in the chat. Are you ready? Are you ready? The professor in the background there, the professor in the background, what is her name? Professor what? 1 point for the professor's name and 1 point for the actor's name. Right. If you've never seen Harry Potter, this thing is called the sorting hat. And when the kiddies arrive at school at Hogwarts, they put the hat on the student, and the hat decides which house the student is going to be in. Bonus point in the chat. What house did Harry Potter get put into? Harry Potter fans, come on, get typing. Right. I think we've been guilty of doing that. And hey, I'm guilty. I'm guilty as well of doing that. That was the system I was brought up in, and I didn't really question it until recently. But the world has changed, and I think we need to change what we are doing. When I say the world has changed, the world of university has certainly changed. They will let anybody into anything now, pretty much. Right, year 9. You may have seen this already. The short version of this is, if you can do the green stuff quickly with some of your students, maybe there is some time to open the window and let a little bit of bright yellow sunshine into the room and show them something that might be truly inspiring. So I don't know about you, but I don't think right angle trigonometry is particularly inspiring. But it would be nice for your best and brightest kids if they got a brief glimpse of a unit circle with a point moving around the unit circle on a screen, tracing out a sine curve. And hey, that's what's going on every day when the tide comes in and the tide goes out. If you do advanced and extension maths, you will look at how people use that curve to predict when the next high tide will be. Okay, in each term, I have tried again to put a really important topic for Jess and Max at the beginning of the term, and less important topics go towards the end of the term, and they may need to be trimmed. Some schools that I worked with, they agreed to this. They agreed that end of term, end of topic, we're going to move on. Get your act together, cut corners, whatever you need to do at the end of the term, end of topic, because next term we're moving on to something much more important than finishing that other topic. The other day, somebody said to me, Stuart, why didn't you organise the book like this? And I said, well, that just wouldn't be possible. But we don't all need to use the same book in the same order, starting from chapter 1, going through to chapter 10, doing every single exercise in every single chapter. That is not necessarily good practice for Jess and Max. Year 9, term 3. Linear relationships. Yeah, Jess and Max need to be very good at that topic before they get to year 10, in my opinion. Year 9, term 4. I've had conversations with people who've said, we're only going to do core topics in year 9. I think that is a recipe for disaster. And I think you are throwing Jess and Max under a bus if you only do core topics in year 9. They will not cope with the transition from year 10 into year 11 advanced. So let's do the right thing by Jess and Max. Year 10. Recently, the head of maths from a small school in northern New South Wales, small school in a small town, where I think there's only 2 classes in year 10, or maybe even only 1. She said to me, Stuart, this is a work of art. I can easily use the year 10 scope and sequence to have different kids sometimes doing the same thing, but other times different kids are doing different things. Frequent conversation during my travels last year. Look, this is the question, Stuart, we've only got 2 kids in year 10 who are anywhere near capable of doing polynomials and then doing extension 1. How can we possibly do that? Well, a lot of people have never noticed that in every Cambridge book, every single example has a little video symbol. And so I've never worked in a school like that, but I think, with a laptop and the interactive version of Cambridge, laptop, headphones, sometimes those 2 students could be doing things from our Advanced and Extension Year 10 book that are way too difficult for other kids, and they can be doing it in a sort of semi-independent fashion. Right. So you might be wondering, yeah, okay, you want me to do lots of algebra and trigonometry, but what can we trim? What can we leave out? I've been asked this question a lot, and I've been thinking about it a lot every day when I walk the dog, because I did get this question frequently. Right, so here we go. Statistics and probability. I love it. It's my favorite topic by far. It's the one I have fun. I look for probability experiments that have counterintuitive results, and I love it. Getting kids to think about that. In my most recent travels, I met several teachers who said this: Stuart, I teach year 11 a lot, and we get kids who come to us from other countries at the beginning of year 11. So we get these kids never been to Australia before. They're going to be in Australia for at least 2 years. And those kids from certain countries, they haven't done any statistics or probability whatsoever, but their algebra is very strong. So the best place for us to put them is straight into advanced. They're okay. They're okay. They can pick up statistics and probability in year 11 and 12. Yeah. What we can't do is pick up kids who don't have the algebra skills. That is my conclusion. It's almost impossible to pick up the algebra skills during year 11 and 12. Another teacher said to me, Stuart, you know, the calculus we do in year 11, yeah, he said, any fool can bring the power down the front and reduce the power by 1. And we call that differentiation. Anybody can do that. That's not the problem. That's not why they leave. They leave because they don't know how to convert an algebraic expression from a fractional surd form into a form that has an index in it. And when they've brought the power down the front and reduced the power by 1, they can't put it back into the ideal form that we would like. So the problem with calculus is not year 11 advanced. The problem with calculus is stage 5. Anyway, there's a lot of statistics and probability in advanced and standard. That hasn't always been the case. Well, for standard it has. We've had statistics and probability in standard for decades, but until recently, there was none of it. Well, there was no statistics in advanced. And to be honest, I thought the statistics that we would get in advanced would be more complicated than it actually is. When I run my year 12 sessions for students and I give them a bit of choice about what we do, what do you need help with? What do you really want to do today? They don't say statistics. They're pretty much okay with stats. It's not the problem. Okay, stage 6 standard, heaps of stats, heaps of probability, but it's taught in a way that it's written in the syllabus as if they've never seen it before. So my question is, do we really need to do stats and probability in 7 and 8 and 9 and 10? I think the answer is no. Geometry, almost completely gone from advanced and never was present in standard much. I could, if we had more time, we could argue what geometry they actually need to do. I think you could have a look through the geometry questions in our 7, 8, 9, 10 book and pick out what they really need to know. Certainly when they're doing problems about bearings, they really need to be able to find a pair of parallel lines and look for a pair of co-interior angles, or angles at a point which add to 360, angles on a straight line, perhaps. Yeah, but most of that is in stage 4 before they see bearings in stage 5. Measurement, the one where nobody actually measures anything. What's in standard? Well, almost nothing is assumed. When they go into year 11 standard, it's pretty much as if they've never seen it before. It's a major topic. Measurement might be the first one they do in year 11, or the volume, surface area, etc. On the other hand, Jess and Max, if they're going to advanced, all of that measurement stuff becomes assumed learning. That's working through those chapters of the textbook, especially in year 9 and 10, I started to think, boy, this does go on and on and on a bit. And I have a couple of suggestions here about what Jess and Max really need to know. It's not a couple, there are 6 of them. Let's go. Number 1, they do need to be really good at the conversions between the metrics units of measurement. I don't know about you, but every time I was given an exercise book in primary school and high school, on the back cover, it had all the metric conversions. I think that's because I was in about year 3 when we switched from imperial to metric. So they kept on putting the metric stuff in front of us in the hope that we would learn it. Maybe that is something we should do for students. Start of every year, here's all the measurement conversions you need to know. Suggestion. Every time they get a new book, maybe that goes inside the front cover or the back cover. Next one, memorizing formulas. Yeah, you need those formulas memorized for a very inconvenient 3 hours at the end of year 12. I think we should let them look them up for all your school-based exams, even the trial. For goodness sake, give them a formula sheet or a formula booklet in year 7. Give it to them every year. Let them use it over and over and over. But there is a big warning on the front cover. Warning, you will need to memorize these for the HSC exam. I think that's something we can do during a boot camp in the last month or 2 before the HSC exam. It is not the thing that should be stopping Jess and Max from doing advanced. Right, practical problems, of course. And one thing I love about our Cambridge books is that we have problems in every single exercise. We don't just do fluency, 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 and then have an exercise full of tricky problems at the end that nobody does because we've run out of time. We've tried to avoid that. So practical problems involving composite shapes and solids, absolutely. Substituting into the right-hand side of a formula, Jess and Max would be okay with that, I reckon, but what they struggle a bit is when they have to substitute into both sides and then rearrange. I think these things should be taught explicitly and then reinforced during the topic. And finally, changing the subject of a formula just because we can. No, there's good reasons for doing that at times. That is one thing that Jess and Max possibly struggle with. by the end of year 10. These are things that perhaps before the end of year 10, we should be aiming to have mastery of all 6 of these things, because Jess and Max, when they hit year 11 advanced, this is all assumed knowledge. Right. Just a little suggestion. Maybe we could inspire Jess and Max when they're in year 8, 9, and 10. We could inspire them gradually along the way by having some little short and snappy mini lessons. You know, the Sydney Harbour Bridge is a parabola. There's good reasons for that. There's a fantastic music video by the band called OK Go. It looks like they're in a spaceship with 0 gravity. They're actually in an aeroplane inside the Earth's atmosphere. The plane is called the Vomit Comet. Check it. It's a great video. And even better, after you've watched the video, there are some really great videos about how they made the video. Really worth a watch. Permutations and combinations, you know, show year 8, year 9 what that NPR, NCR button does. It doesn't take long. And they love the big numbers that come out of it. You know, Lotto, 44 numbers, choose 6, 8 million combinations to choose from. Ouch. Right, the unit circle, I mentioned tides coming in and out, and also the number of daylight hours at various times of year. And we're coming up to the shortest day of the year on the 22nd, 23rd. Hey, I know some teachers that introduce radians just with the chocolate cake. Hey, if you do advanced, you'll be using degrees. You're also going to use these things called radians. Who'd like a piece of chocolate cake? And also, you may have seen me do the thing with the bread roll and the brown paper bag and the introduction to logarithms. Just to get Jess and Max realizing as soon as possible that if they go to standard, they're going to spend at least 50% of the time redoing maths they have learnt before. If they go to advanced, they are going to be seeing new things, interesting things, scientific things, just about every day of the week. Well, that was fast and furious. I'm done. I'm ready for questions. What do we got, team?
Well done, Stuart. Thanks very much for that presentation. First of all, I'll just say that we have a very literate audience in the realm of Harry Potter and Hogwarts and so on.
I knew we would.
Yeah. Very, 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 very good answers.
So, Professor.
Yeah, McGonagall I've never seen or heard of Harry Potter until today. So I'm just going
Professor McGonagall, played by
Maggie Smith, was the most common response.
And the house.
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
As I said, lots of excellent responses.
Excellent. Yes.
Okay.
Are you serious, Scott? You've never seen Harry Potter?
No, I was joking. I actually saw
Harry Potter.
I actually saw Daniel Radcliffe in New York recently, on Broadway, and he was excellent. He's just won a Tony Award. So let's get on with.
He was just hanging out on Broadway, or was he in a play?
He was in a play. Yeah.
What was that?
The play was called Merrily We Roll Along, which
I've seen that. Stephen Sondheim. Anyway,
exactly.
Enough.
Stephen
Let's
Sondheim.
go.
Yeah, fantastic show. Okay. A first off question from Bill here. This is a quite specific, and I'm not sure if you will or won't be able to answer on the spot, Stuart, but
Yeah.
Bill's question had to do with why in Year 9, Chapter 3 is factoring, why does factoring not follow expansion in the Year 9 book in Chapter 3? So I assume that's the Pathway
Yes.
to Advanced Year 9 book.
Yes. I don't have an answer off the top of my head for that one, but if you get an email address, I will write a paragraph about that one.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
And I might just point out, Bill, you'll notice that my name is not the only name on the front cover, Bill. So sometimes I am swayed by other people on the author team.
That's right. So, in relation to the screenshots that you were showing throughout
Yep.
your presentation, Stuart, and just generally, are you happy to make this set of slides available to attendees?
Oh, okay. I should have said that. The screenshots are from the Cambridge scope and sequence, and everybody should be able to access the Cambridge scope and sequence. If you can't find it, you should contact your sales rep or send me an email if you've got your email address. I'm pretty sure all of those snapshots were pretty much directly from the scope and sequence, but I am happy for the slides to be shared as well.
Yep. Okay. So I was still waiting for some questions, some more questions to come in, Stuart. But one from me. Say that there is a student in Year 8 or Year 9 or Year 10 who is wanting to end up doing Stage 6 Advanced and or
Yep.
Extension. But they are, in terms of their current performance
Yep.
at the lower year levels, not showing that they would make it in terms of their progress so far through the Stage 4 and the start of Stage 5. What resources would you recommend within the Cambridge set of resources that they could turn to, either with the help of their parents or their teachers as well, to help accelerate their progress, to get them to a point that they could tackle advanced?
Sure. Right. Well, if I was the teacher of that student, I would be basically having this conversation about which chapters in the book they have are the most critical for their future success. I would be directing them towards the chapter review at the end of those chapters and the exercises in the chapter review, which link back to the exercise, so that if they're having trouble with the questions in the chapter review, they can easily go back and find more questions like that one. And there's also the diagnostic tool. If I say diagnostic tool and you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. It's because it was a new product this year. Scott's baby. It's your baby, wasn't it, Scott?
Yes. Yeah.
Scott,
Very proud of the baby.
and the sales team would love to come to your school or run a Zoom session in which they would demonstrate the diagnostic tool. One of the best things about the diagnostic tool is that you can choose, the teacher, can choose whatever it is you think that student most needs, and you can choose it using examples or even syllabus descriptions. So based on what I've been saying this afternoon, I wouldn't be choosing much geometry for that student, but I would be choosing lots of algebra and really pushing for mastery of the algebra. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And the diagnostics tool, there is no prerequisites in terms of what a student sees. So in order to be set some of the algebra in year 9 or year 10, according to the highest impact topics that Stuart has been talking about, there's no requirement by the system for them to have gone through all this other content first and do a whole bunch of testing that they don't need to do if you don't want them to do that. So you can start, if you want to, with the highest impact topics and just test on that if that's what you want to do, and if that's what the student wants to do as well, and their parents. Still waiting for some more questions, Stuart, but could you talk a little bit about the labeling of topics? What kind of labeling have we done this time for the new edition of
you
all
mean
the
not
books?
just topics, but in the every section?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
okay.
And
So
how can those labels assist with course
sure.
planning?
Yeah, well, okay, for that student who's struggling, it would be helpful to realize that in the index and at the beginning of every section, there might be a word, and that word could be consolidating, which means basically it's something they saw in a previous year or a previous stage. They should, or in theory, they should already be good with it, but here's another chance for a bit of catch up and a consolidation, revision. We decided to call it consolidation rather than revision, but I can't remember why. Do you remember why that was, Scott?
I think it just is it is consolidating. It's consolidating topics that have come before. That's why.
Okay.
But you know your one thing that is there in these New South Wales books is a lot more information than just that in terms of the learning intentions for the topic, but then the links to the syllabus the syllabus itself.
So at the start of every section, so if you turn to 5G, there's a box. It could be a green box or a blue box or a lilac box. And as Scott said in there are learning intentions, but also there's a heading that says past, present, and future learning. And it would indicate to a teacher or a student or a parent where does this fit in the scheme of things? If this is the year 10 book, was this already treated in the year 9 book? If this was a year 9 book, is it going to be treated in the year 10 book or not? Those boxes at the start of each section, I think they're quite helpful. They actually came about as a suggestion of one of our users from up Newcastle Way. Said he would have liked more information about what's going to happen when you're using the year 9 book. He would have liked to more information about what's going to happen in year 10 on that piece of work. Is it going to be done again? Is it going to be extended? Or is that it? Finished? Won't be seeing that in year 10. Yeah. And then, of course, one of the best things about Cambridge, I think, is that we do go beyond the syllabus frequently. We're proud of that, but we label it clearly using the word extending. And sometimes we use the word enriching, which means not really in the syllabus, but not a bad thing to do if you've got a bit of time up your sleeve. Maybe not so much for Jess and Max.
That's right. Yeah. Stuart, in relation to Jess and Max, when you have traveled around New South Wales presenting this information about the ways in which schools can prioritise topics in order to ensure that their students are given the best possible chance
Yeah.
to do advanced in stage 6. What are the most common questions that you get from your workshops? What are
Yeah.
people what do they ask? What kind of issues
Yeah.
come up when you talk about this stuff?
There's a genuine fear of what's going to happen if they get inspected by NESA, or even if they get inspected by their own diocese or their own network of schools. When they get inspected, don't I have to prove that we've covered every single dot point? So there's genuine fear of that. And I know the answer is no. You don't need to prove that you have covered every single dot point. You do need to justify why you're doing what you're doing. And it's not just justifying that to the inspectors, but also justifying that to students and parents and your school executive. We are setting the bar high for our students. And this, I was really chuffed in one of the most remote places in Australia, in what must be a very challenging school. The head teacher had the conversation with year 8 and with year 8 students and year 8 parents, and had the conversation and gave students the voice and the choice to say, yes, at this point in time, I am aiming for advanced. Can we do that? Going back to Scott's question, can we do that? Yes, you can. Absolutely. And I think we should. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I answered your question, Scott.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about a little bit more about the scope and sequence documents and the programs that you've created? If anyone attending this webinar is unfamiliar with those, could you explain what your approach has been, and subsequent to that, could you talk about where
Yeah.
people could access those documents?
Yep.
Just
So if you haven't seen those, if you haven't seen the programs or the scope and sequences, give your sales rep a call. There's the information you need. They will point you in the right direction of the scope and sequence and the programs. I can do it too. If you contact me, I think just about everybody in New South Wales has got an email address for me. But it's best you go through. If you're using Cambridge, it's best that you have ongoing contact with one of these people. They are very, very helpful, very, very knowledgeable, and they've been on the team all through this process, and they probably know an answer to the question you're going to ask. Right. So what did I do? I didn't write separate programs for the 3 different books in year 9. I wrote one program. It has everything in it that is in the syllabus. Everything. But the scope and sequence, as you saw, there are different scope and sequences for different students, but they all work from the same program. When you look at the program, it clearly tells you each block of time, which sections and exercises from Cambridge I'm recommending that students do. And if they're in the first half of the term, I think we should be aiming for mastery. Second half of the term, might need to cut some corners. Yeah. Yeah. Did I answer your question, Scott?
You did. Yep, absolutely. Just one more thing from me. I think we're close to being able to finish up. I think, Stuart.
5 minutes. Yep.
No official questions. No further questions have come through. We'll stay on the line for another couple of minutes just in case
Yep.
people want to put a few more in. On the diagnostics that that Stuart mentioned earlier and that we were talking about a few minutes ago, I just wanted to mention that although Stuart referred to it as a product, and it is it's a substantial tool and probably qualifies as a product on its own. It's not something that you pay any additional subscription fee for or anything like that. It's
That's
not
right.
some add-on. It comes with the rest of the teacher resources within the online teaching suite. So if you are using Cambridge's books, the new edition, you have access to the online teaching suite that contains all of the skill sheets and chapter tests and teaching programs and curriculum grids and so on. All of those documents within that platform is the diagnostics assessment tool, which is a gigantic tool that is easy to use. It is intended to fit in as you're building a program, whether it's your own program that you've come up with or following some of the ideas that Stuart has put forward. Whatever it is that you have built, whatever order of topics that you have put into your teaching program, you'll be able to use the diagnostics tool and it will fit in naturally with your existing programs. Pretty easy to use. If you are using it and you have feedback, if there's anything that you would like to see that you don't currently see, you can get in touch with any of the people that you see on the screen there, or with myself, or if you have Stuart's contact details, you can get in touch with him and he'll forward it on to me. And we'll take a look at what we can do. We're improving it and adding things all the time to make it better as we get feedback from schools all around New South Wales. Okay,
Yep.
Stuart, I think that's pretty much it. I'll pass over now to Caroline if there's any to just go through these last few slides. But thank you very much, Stuart.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. A big thank you to both Stuart and Scott for this presentation. All of us at Cambridge are very lucky to have you both on the team, delivering exceptional maths resources, but also sharing your knowledge with maths teachers throughout New South Wales. So on the screen, you'll see some pricing for Cambridge Maths New South Wales, 3rd edition. There's a link there also for the landing page, so you'll have further information through that. We have 4 members of the New South Wales sales team, like Stuart put up before, so please feel free to get in touch with any of us and we'd be more than happy to help you further. And like Stuart mentioned and Scott was talking about, we would be more than happy to come out to the school, do a demo for you and your faculty and show you the new diagnostic tool as well as other features on the site. So please get in touch. So thank you to everyone for attending this afternoon. We hope you got some real value from this, and just remembering this will be recorded. It is recorded and we'll send that out to you in the next few days. And you'll also have the opportunity to share some feedback with us, which would be much appreciated. So on behalf of all of us here at Cambridge, thank you for attending and have a good evening.